Welcome to Brocktober. It's Brockolicious. Sorry, Auburn fans. Too soon, too bad. Who cares? That game is history. Like 7 straight wins history. Like we have won 10 out of 11 last games history. This week, we have special guests. First, for the first time ever, we will have an opposing view, an opposing Kentucky view, as we welcome Adam Cochran. Next, we're going to have a very friendly view from a fellow dog podcaster, and that's Cassidy Pearson from Any Given Saturday. She joins us. And then it's the usual cast of repeat offenders. Buffalo will melt your face off. The stat freak from dogbone.net, Bert Hodges, he'll melt your brain down. Dogger, well, he just made with you some money. Dr. Feelgood, also known as Dr. Snetzer, he's coming in with some visual aids so we'll understand the injuries. And now it's on to Survival Saturday in Sanford Stadium. It's UGA versus KY. Jelly. Because as we saw last Saturday, them Wildcats is slippery.
It's time for the Mad Dawg Show, coming to you live from the Park Group studio in the heart of the Bulldog Nation. The Mad Dawg Show is proudly sponsored by
The Sanford Company, Dogbone.net, Bulldog Illustrated, Classic City Collective, The Park Group Marketing and Media, Bib Distributing, Sellers Construction, Fincher's Barbecue, Go Clean Co., Jay Lee, Attorney at Law, Pelicano Construction, Jags Pizzeria, Macon Monogramming, Ortho Georgia, Cherokee Brick, Progressive Communications, Butler Auto Group, ASP, Ward Mini Storage, Walthall Oil Company, Beach Services, Willingham Sash and Door, and Cranford Chiropractic.
Now, here he is, the Mad Dawg.
Okay. So I was terrified. You were too. Why? Because we got all these great winning streaks going, but Auburn did too. They had won 4 straight games in Jordan-Hare Stadium against the number 1 team in the country. That is an insane stat. It's maybe an all-time record. And they must have the best referees money can buy too, because they held us the whole game and didn't throw a single flag. Now, Auburn is the worst rival to lose to. Why? Well, probably like you, I don't have any friends that are Florida fans, and the same goes for South Carolina and Tennessee, but I have a lot of friends who went to Auburn, a lot. And to say that I would be targeted in the event of a loss is a bit of an understatement. My phone would ring so hot that it would split open and melt. And when it looked like Dejan had fumbled the ball as we watched the play live, I broke out in a cold sweat and I got queasy, real queasy. And I hate the word queasy. It's kind of like the word moist. Nobody likes the word moist or queasy. And I was with my family on my best behavior because my son's girlfriend was watching the game with us, with me, for the first time in my presence watching the game, and she had been warned to expect anything, to expect everything. She deserved to see the real me, to see if their love is really real. So there I was, holding my breath, like the entire dog nation, praying that the replay gods would smile down upon us, that Larry Munson himself was doctoring the video in our favor, because we all knew the refs sure as hell weren't going to do us any favors. Did they call Auburn for holding? Again, did they call them even one time? Of course they didn't. It was ludicrous. And then Heaven's Gates opened, and the right call was easily made. And my phone did get hot. Dogs that were in despair and desperation had hope again. For you see, time was changing. 'Twas the eve of Brocktober, and the whole world watched a dog who was simply on another level, unicorn level. He took over the end of that game, period. No, exclamation point. As we've seen him do it so many times before, but this time it was just mind-numbing. I mean, Are we really watching him single-handedly take this game into his own hands as he's making one-handed snags with those hands, running through tackles like a Herschel-esque or Herschel-ish tight end? And on the touchdown, he made Auburn look flat out silly. And for the record, I'm not getting cocky here. This team is not like the team last year or the year before that. I mean, let's kid ourselves. Let's not kid ourselves. Although we'd like to kid ourselves, let's not kid ourselves. We're not going to win any beauty contests, at least not yet anyway. But slowly, we're getting healthier. And the healthier we get, the more experience we get, and the more confidence we're going to get. And we keep winning moment by moment, just like Kirby preaches. And in a year without any dominant team, give me Kirby Smart against the field every single time. Dr. Feelgood is back. What's up, Dr. Spencer?
Hey, my man, how's it going?
I'm good. I hear that you are bringing all sorts of things to educate us with, maybe even a skeleton.
I do. I happen to have one of those right here with me of a foot. Talk about one of our guys who's had a recent procedure, it sounds like.
So what he's talking about is Tyrion Ingram Dawkins, who's a D lineman. He's like 6'5", 280. Been out basically the whole year, had surgery mid-September, hoping he can be back in November. Take it away.
Yeah, so from what it sounds like he has had a stress fracture of his navicular bone, or one of these bones in the middle of the foot. So what I have is a skeleton. I'm trying to get a better view here, but the navicular bone is this bone right here towards the top, just below the ankle, between really the ankle itself and then the toes. Okay. It's one of the bones that allows for some motion, multiple different joints in there. And it's a high stress bone in our foot. So you got to think of these guys that are a lot of pushing off, a lot of jumping up and down. That bone can just take a lot of stress. And exactly what he had was what sounds like a stress fracture of that bone there. The concern is that's an area that doesn't get a lot of blood flow. And so it can, in theory, be fairly slow to heal.
Of course it is.
Yep. So it sounds like that's what he was saying. A lot of these can be treated non-operatively. You can put them in a boot, keep them off of it, give them 6 weeks, hopefully the pain's gone and they've healed and they can go back. Sounds like his didn't, or maybe it even turned into a complete fracture. And so then they have to go in and put a screw across it to stabilize it and allow the bone to heal that way. You're looking at probably a minimum of 6 weeks out, and then, getting back in condition as long as pain is relieved. But, a fairly probably more common injury. You see it a lot. I think you see it a lot in the basketball players. You hear them having stress fractures in their foot. That's one of them. The other stress fracture is one I kind of hear on the outside in the little bone of the foot. But those are two common areas to see in athletes.
So if they correct it with a screw, they leave the screw in there?
Typically, the screw will stay in. Yep.
Okay. It's crazy that a bone that small can derail an entire season.
Yeah, I mean, you're looking at this bone. It may be about 3 centimeters across from here to right about between my fingers right there.
Yeah,
that's it. So, small bone in the foot, one of the tarsal bones in the foot, but very important to our motion. All our stress when we walk goes through as your foot kind of flattens out a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So that allows for all that motion in our foot.
He's kind of been buried in the injury report for so long that everybody's just forgotten about him. But you kind of think about him when you think, okay, we don't have the space eaters that we've had in the past, the Jalen's, Devontae's, Jordan, Trayvon, and we need him.
Yeah, we're definitely going to need him here in the long run. I think, it sounds like his surgery was, early mid-September.
Mm-hmm.
Or even in August. I don't remember exactly what it was, but
the earlier the better.
Yeah, earlier the better. Minimum of 6 weeks out on that, I think. And then we'll go from there. But hopefully we can get him back out on the field when we get towards the end of the year. Obviously not going to have him back this week. Good thing is we got McConkey back last week. Okay, Bullard played. Both still a little banged up, going through practice a little bit this week, but I certainly expect to see them out there without any changes, hopefully on Saturday.
Yes, we got to see Bullard running full speed, running the quarterback down, and I didn't see, it didn't look to me like he was limited. Obviously, McConkey was limited by just the amount of plays he was in there, which he did great. Would
Mhm.
you think that with McConkey, at least, it would be one where, he plays a little bit more and a little bit more, and they're kind of trying to ease him back in?
Yeah, it sounds that way. And, I think in his press conference the other day, Coach Smart had talked about him. The primary concern for him is really just conditioning again, get back in game shape, back in playing shape, and so limited reps. One thing happens if you're out there tired, you're more prone to injury. So having to take these guys are very very highly conditioned athletes. Taking just a couple of days off makes a difference. So he was off for a couple of weeks. So it's just going to take some time to kind of build that back up.
So Kendall Milton was out there for a few snaps in a knee brace. It was almost he never ran the ball. It was almost like they had him out there to give
Yeah.
other guys a breather. And I
Mhm.
think he's had an MCL sprain, kind of like Dejan had earlier in the year. I mean, is that something where, he's probably not going to be full strength this week, is he?
I mean, obviously, if he's back in there, they expect him to be pretty close, right? They're not going to put him out there if he's at any risk of re-injuring that. So, I think he'd be pretty close. I think we can see him get some more snaps this week, maybe get the ball in his hand and, start putting a little pressure on some of these defenses running the ball.
And it doesn't seem like Andrew Paul has really bounced all the way back from his ACL. Otherwise, we would have seen him more given the attrition in the backfield.
Yeah.
Is that something where you think it's just going to be one of those things where it's just going to be a slow road back?
Yeah, I mean, the ACLs, a lot of people, historically those were a minimum of a year, right? And then
Right.
in the last couple of years, we've got these accelerated protocols. People come back faster and faster. But just because one person's coming back in 6 to 8 months doesn't mean the next one's coming back that time. Everybody's healing at a different rate. There's just it just takes time. If there are any complications in his recovery, so there's a lot of the things that we don't know. I still think you're looking at full recovery. Even these people that are back playing earlier, they're probably still not. They're probably still saying they're not 100% until at least a year out.
Yeah, and I mean, just getting confidence in the knee after such a catastrophic injury. I mean, you got to get out there, and you're the one taking all the abuse, so it's gotta take a little time. Then shifting to our least favorite injury, the high ankle sprain.
Right.
It plagues
Yep.
us and tortures us. So Amarius Mims had the tightrope procedure, which now I feel like I could write a term paper on.
Yep.
At this point, are we thinking November for him too?
I think that would be a good expectation. It may be a little bit quicker than that. It's a fairly new procedure. I think we're still trying to feel our way through when these guys get better. I mean, it was a sprain, right? And so we were
Right.
looking at these things. I mean, we went through the same thing last year with AD. I mean, just kept on going and going. So hopefully this is one that can back a little quicker. I think November is certainly, what I think he would expect to be able to play by November. But just want to see him to get out there and test it and just see where it is.
Okay. In your medical opinion, could a concussion also be termed as an illness?
Yeah, I hear you. Sounds like some more Belichick games to me.
But is a concussion, is it technically an illness?
I mean, I guess we'd have to get technical looking at the words, looking at the Webster's dictionary. Probably, in my opinion, would be considered an injury, not an illness.
Yeah. So I guess everybody can listen to this and connect dots and read between the lines as to the question that I'm asking the good doctor. Think about our injury report the last month,
Several illnesses out there.
which if that's what's going on, I got no problem with it.
Hey, you know what? You don't have to declare what it is.
Exactly. Exactly. Play the Belichick.
It's not the NFL. I mean, Belichick plays games there, but the NFL has a much stricter policy on declaring injuries.
Well, Eden Kirby is in the Belichick tree, isn't he?
He
Saban?
Saban, yeah, Belichick, yeah, and I know they spent time up there with at New England when he was with Saban. Even since then, I think he's spent some time up there.
But Saban at one point coached under Belichick, right?
I think, I can't be for certain. I mean, maybe someone at Michigan State. There was did he? I don't know the answer to that for certain.
I'm looking.
They definitely have a very similar style of coaching.
For sure. All right, I'm getting to the Belichick tree. You got Parcells in it.
Yep.
Saban's in it. Saban's in
Yeah.
it. So Kirby's in the tree.
Where he falls in there.
Kirby's in the tree.
Kirby's in there. Yeah. Did you see where Saban fell in the tree? It had to be sometime.
Let's see. Saban, tenure with Belichick, Cleveland Browns, 91 to 94.
Cleveland Browns. All right. There you go.
So it makes sense.
Yes. It's all we're connecting all the dots now.
Yeah, exactly. Now it's all coming together.
Exactly.
Well, you got any other injuries I don't know about?
I think we had a relatively easy, not easy game, but a relatively injury-free game on Saturday. So hopefully the guys are getting out there, getting ready. Got a big one Saturday night. Look forward to watching it.
You going?
No, I'm gonna be out of town. Kids are on fall break, so we're taking them on vacation.
Oh, good for you.
Yeah.
Good for you.
You heading up there?
Nope, got a wedding.
That's right.
So I'm trying to, it feels like there's another injury I wanted to ask you about. It'll come to me once we hang up.
There you go. That's about right.
All right, my man. Well, let's have a short talk next week.
Yes, sir. Sounds good.
All right. Talk soon. So I am super excited to have Cassidy Pearson with us. And here's part of the reason why I'm excited. Part of the reason that I am here doing this podcast is because of her podcast, Any Given Saturday. What's going on, Cassidy?
What's up, Mad Dawg? How are you?
Man, I'm just happy to be here talking to you. You know, like I said, when I heard about your podcast, I was like, that is the coolest concept. That is the coolest name for a podcast. And then that's part of the reason why I ended up here and we're talking.
Thank you.
And then I run into you at games all over the place, ran into you at LA for the Natty, for that disaster of getting out of that
I
stadium.
know, I was about to say, I'm glad you got a ride home since I couldn't help you in the pouring rain.
I think you had help. I think your car had 18 people in it.
I think so, in our small little sedan.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Those people were from Columbus, too, which was crazy. We saw them, and then we saw y'all right after.
That's wild. Okay, so speaking of Columbus, you're in Columbus now. You got Georgia Auburn games. You're probably, there's houses divided. You're probably in a city divided.
Oh, yeah. I think it's about 50-50 right down the middle. I almost meet more Auburn fans than I do Georgia fans. And I guess there's some Auburn fans in Macon, but not near as many as here.
Sure. And so you went to the game. What was that like?
Yeah, Auburn's always a really fun tailgating environment. Auburn fans love their team no matter how good, how bad they are, and they love that game. I wish it was still in November. It's so weird seeing it earlier in the year. You know, the time hasn't changed yet, so it's bright outside even for the 3:30 game.
And it was hot.
Oh yeah, very, very hot, and we're not used to that with that game. But the spirits were up for Auburn fans and Georgia fans alike. We were tailgating behind the stadium, so it was really funny because we would hear the crowd noise before we saw the play on TV. Like, what's the point of watching it? Because if it was really loud, we obviously knew that Auburn probably got a first down or tackled Georgia on the other side of the ball. But it was still fun at the end of the game. Actually, when it was 4th and 9, there was a really loud roar, and so everyone in my tailgate, everyone was an Auburn fan except me, was like, "Oh yes, we got it! We got the 4th down!" And so of course I'm here like, "Oh!" And then I see the pick, and it was like the best surprise of my life because it was the Georgia fans that were so loud in the stadium. So that was pretty cool.
That's really cool. Really kind of surreal just to watch a game, you know, with these contrary noises going on and just trying to figure out what's happening.
Yeah, it was hard to keep up with it, but it was a fun experience.
So how long is it going to take? How long would it take you to go from Auburn back to Columbus?
It's about 50 minutes.
Okay. So it's a good little ride. And how often are you able to get back to Athens?
I've been to 2 games this year, thankfully. I went to Ball State and I went to actually, I was supposed to go to the South Carolina game. I ended up hurting my back, and so I didn't get to go into the game. But I'm going this weekend for Kentucky, and I haven't been to a night game since 2021. And before that, since Notre Dame in 2019. So I'm not used to getting the night game. So I'm
Yeah.
really excited to be there in Sanford on Saturday.
All right, I'm concerned about your back. Now, is this a Ladd McConkey type back injury, or are you at 100%? Are you ready for this night game?
I'm ready, hopefully now. I played golf the other day and trying to make sure I'm all good so it doesn't happen to me again. I was pretty devastated. I couldn't even move. All my friends were like, "You must be hurting pretty bad if you're not going to the Georgia game today." So
Yeah. So, are you still playing a lot of golf?
I am when I can. I wish I could play. Well, I probably could play all the time, but I just don't. Me and my friends have gotten really into pickleball and tennis lately, so
Mhm.
I play that more than I play golf. But I still love it and wish I played more than I do.
Can you beat your dad?
Yes, I
Ah,
can.
yes, it's okay. Tell us. Tell the world. Tell the world.
There's definitely days when I'm playing bad and he beats me, or vice versa. But we're pretty close. But past couple times I have beaten him. So
Now, do y'all bet? Do you take some money off of him?
I think we bet this summer with my brother. We were playing a little par 3 course in Amelia Island, and we ended up tying. And then we went to a putting contest. And now that you mention it, I don't think he ever paid me. So
Okay, I'll
you're
say
gonna have to
something.
let him know next time you see
I'll
him
be
that
sure
he owes
to.
me
I'll be sure to do that.
performance.
So, okay, tell me about just how your podcast got started and how long you've been doing it. Tell me everything.
Yeah, so a couple of my friends and I in college, we all the time would talk about football. I've always been a big football fan, not just Georgia, but keeping up with college football as a whole. And when I was a freshman at Georgia, it was 2017. So that, of course, was the big year, Jake Fromm,
Right.
and starting all the way going to the national championship game. So a lot of my friends who maybe weren't necessarily as huge football fans became one because of how good Georgia was that year. And so anyway, so we'd go to the dining hall in between classes at night, whatever, because that's what you do when you're in college. You got to go to the dining hall and eat. And
Sure.
we would talk about football all the time, every day. And we just one day, one of my friends is a journalism major. And so he was kind of getting used to having to maybe record and practice doing journalism. And he said, let's do a podcast and let's just see what happens. And our parents loved it. We were terrible at it, but
So am I. So am I. It doesn't matter.
it was fun. And for me, like, I just have to get my thoughts out after I watch football. And so it was just good to get it out and discuss everything. And we'd sit with like random people at lunch and we'd get in these like huge arguments about football. And it was a lot of fun. And so then last year, Molly Lee and I started an Instagram page and we called it Any Given Saturday. And we do recordings, podcasts, and then we also just kind of post some interactive things for our followers who are really just all of our friends to kind of pick their games and call the games and stuff like that. So it's not a very official thing, but hopefully in the future we'll kind of get it that way when some of my friends have a little bit more time on their hands.
Well, it's official enough for me. If I could figure out Instagram, which scares me, I would try to look that up. Facebook scares me enough. I mostly just press like. Every now and again, I'll post something that always seems to make opposing fans mad. But no, like you said, you just wanted to get your thoughts out, and so it's like in some form, it's therapeutic
It is.
just to talk about it, right?
It is. Yeah, I want to talk about it every single time. And especially when you get deeper into the season, you're trying to figure out, who's going to win their divisions, who's going to win their conferences, who's going to make the playoffs. You kind of got to place your bets and kind of argue with your friends about it. So it's a lot of fun.
So do guys ever get intimidated by your football knowledge? And they're like, man, she knows more than me. This is crazy.
I don't know if they get intimidated. Definitely surprised, I think, especially when I beat someone to an argument, which my guy friends, I still to this day will bother them about a couple arguments I won in college. But yeah, definitely a surprise, I would say.
And probably weeds some of them out. You're like, this guy I can't be friends with this guy or this
So
girl.
yeah,
They don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah, I think it's kind of weird when guys act like they love football and then they really might only care about one team and they don't actually know what they're talking about.
Yeah, and then you ask them like, "How do you feel about Marvin Jones Jr.?" And they're like, "Who?" Okay, I know what I want to know. Top 3 teams. I may have to go outside. I'm going to say first. Top 3 teams outside the SEC that you cannot stand.
Oh, wow. That's a good question. Definitely Ohio State.
Thank you.
I cannot stand them, and I definitely cannot stand Ryan Day currently. After what he
I
did.
mean, nobody likes this guy.
So definitely Ohio State. If this was a couple years ago, I would have said Clemson just because they broke my heart a couple times in high school.
Hmm.
But I don't think I have as much of a hatred for them anymore. I probably would still put them in there though, for talking non-SEC. And then I mean maybe Michigan.
Yeah,
I don't hate that many teams
yeah.
out of the SEC.
A lot of times, what hates. I shouldn't use the word hate. It's such a strong word. Maybe extreme disdain. But what
Right.
drives that emotion for me is the coach.
Oh
Like
yeah.
you were saying about Ryan Day, and I used to like Harbaugh. I don't know why, but now he's been getting on my nerves because of cheating and lying about cheating. And then I've never been a fan of Notre Dame, and that drives me to really not like LSU because I can't stand Brian Kelly because he is so arrogant and condescending. I don't. I love that they're losing now. I hope Missouri beats them.
Oh yeah, me too.
I don't like Lincoln Riley. I like Dan Lanning.
Me
I'm
too.
happy to see his success.
Doing so well.
Oh gosh, I can always think of all the. There's really not many teams. It's pretty much Ryan Day and Brian Kelly.
I totally agree with that.
But with Brian Kelly, I dipped back inside the SEC. But I got no ill will for Hugh Freeze. I like Lane Kiffin. I got not. I'm fine with Shane Beamer, Heupel, whatever, Napier, whatever. Drinkowitz seems like a good guy. I can't remember the name of the Vanderbilt coach. Can't remember the name of the Mississippi State coach. Saban is the guy you love to hate, but you have to respect what he's done. Okay, if who do you predict will be the 4 teams that get in?
So at the beginning of the season, I said Georgia, Michigan, Oregon, and Florida State. I'm still 100% on Oregon.
I think you're right, and I don't know why everybody's sleeping on them.
I don't know either because, first of all, USC, everyone is saying them because of Caleb Williams, of course. I don't have a problem acknowledging Caleb Williams and their offense. He might win the Heisman again, and that's great. Their defense, though, on Saturday, letting Colorado come back.
Trash.
That's not a championship caliber team to
No,
act like that.
no.
And they have a very tough schedule. I can't imagine them getting through Notre Dame, Oregon, Utah, and Washington, maybe.
Yeah.
I do not see USC making it out.
Yeah, me either. So I love that call. I love that call.
I have Oregon in the Pac-12 for sure. Florida State, I think it'll be hard for them to get through undefeated, but they'd be my pick for the ACC. So I think they have a shot at making it in still. Georgia, I think our schedule's easy enough to make it in. And Michigan, I don't know. Penn State's looking really good this year. And Ohio
Yes, Penn State is my sleeper. Yes.
No, they are a huge sleeper.
Yeah.
They're doing very well. And so I could see a huge Big Ten couple matchups there at the end of the year, deciding who wins that. But
Okay, we got to talk about the nightmare scenario.
okay, I love these.
Yeah. So let's say Penn State runs the table just for funsies. Let's say Oregon runs the table. Let's say Florida State runs the table. let's say Texas runs the table and it's either undefeated us or one loss us. Let's just, for the sake of argument, I think if we're undefeated, we're in. But what if it's one loss Georgia, conference champion, against these four undefeated teams? I mean, I don't feel good.
No, I think if they're all undefeated, you have to put them in. But we've never seen that in the college football playoff era with, I don't think more than one undefeated team has ever made it. And so I think that's highly unlikely that that would happen. But yeah, in that situation, Georgia's out.
Yeah, it is. It's highly unlikely, but it's almost like because it's never happened, it's closer to happening just as a law of numbers.
Right. I definitely think Texas has the best shot at being undefeated. I think that's pretty obvious with their schedule. But, I mean, what happens if like Oregon loses a game but wins the Pac-12, and then Penn State loses a game, wins the Big Ten, and then Georgia? I mean, at that point, that's when, and even Florida State, North Carolina, somebody like that, same situation. I mean, you're talking about 4 or 5 conferences with one-loss teams, maybe a one-loss team that didn't win the conference.
And people like my family question me like, well, why do you want this team to lose or that team to lose? I'm like, I want everybody outside the SEC to lose. That does nothing but help us. I want them all to find a way to lose, hopefully more than once. I want them to all cannibalize themselves so that we don't get into that nightmare scenario that we just talked about.
Yeah, I think every year we talk about these scenarios and it never seems to happen. But this year it's looking like it, especially with the SEC. I can't imagine 2 SEC teams being in the conversation for the playoffs. So
Agree.
nightmare situation, but I don't think it'll happen. But I'm excited to see who makes it.
Okay, so amongst your crew, what is like the biggest topic of debate that you guys just can't agree on right now that you just are going back and forth on? Anything? Is it Bobo? Is it Bobo? Are y'all arguing about Bobo?
We're not.
Good.
I'm tired of hearing about that.
I'm tired of hearing about that. I'm a Bobo supporter.
Yeah, I am too. And yes, there's questionable things that I wish would change. But like at the end of the day, it's just like there's so much more to talk about than that. And that's not the reason why we're making mistakes.
I love it. I love it. We're we're so on the same page. So does anything come to mind where like you're like, okay, we've been talking about this. I'm gonna show this person why I'm right.
As far as Georgia goes, we kind of have disagreements about is Georgia good or elite versus is Georgia not. And for me personally, I didn't have super duper high expectations going into the year just because there's so many new guys. I'm not going to put a ton of pressure on Carson Beck in his first year. And we just won 2 years in a row. Obviously, I want to win a third year, and I think that we can. But I'm not going to like expect that. I think that's just unrealistic. And so a couple of my friends are just, some of them think that we're terrible, and I'm tired of hearing that. And then some people think that we're like amazing and like just as good as last year. And I don't agree with that. And so I'm just kind of in the middle of like, I'm confident in our team. I think that we can go all the way. But at the same time, I'm not like crazy girl that's like, Georgia's terrible. We almost lost to Auburn. Like,
yeah, I'm in the same boat.
I've just heard everything.
Are we elite? To me, the answer is we don't know because we haven't played fully healthy a good team.
Right.
This week will probably be the closest, even though I wouldn't classify based on what I've read that McConkey's 100%. You can't say Milton's 100%. We know Amarius Mims is out. I feel like we're kind of 100% on defense, but at the end of the day, I think the reality is you're never going to be able to say you're 100% once the season starts. So this will be the best indicator so far of whether we're elite or not. But is this a year where nobody's elite? I mean, nobody's dominant. So it's kind of like we got a puncher's chance just like anybody. We just got to get to the dance.
I know, and it's like people are like, why is Georgia still ranked number one after they struggled against South Carolina and Auburn? I'm like, who is going to be ranked number one? Everyone in the top 10 is so far either struggled against a good team or not played anybody yet. So we have a lot more to show before we're dropping Georgia down, in my opinion.
The only team I would be fine with them putting in front of us is Texas, because I thought that was a good win against Alabama. Although, Jalen Milroe doesn't throw those 2 interceptions and Alabama wins, and they're not sitting back at 11. They're sitting at number 1.
Right.
So it's just such a fine line.
Right. Well, we'll know more about Texas after Saturday. So
Who do you think's going to win?
I mean, I've said Texas, but I feel like that's me just saying that because they've proven to be good by beating Alabama. I will not be surprised if Oklahoma comes in and wins. I'm sure it'll be a shootout.
Thus the name.
Yes.
Well, the name that it used to be called. I don't know what Oklahoma really has or who they've played. I should, but I don't. I know that what we've seen of Texas looked really good. I know Dylan Gabriel's a good quarterback, but that's going to be a fun one to watch. Who do you think's going to win Alabama, Texas A&M?
I've been saying A&M. I was very impressed by their performance against Arkansas last week. Arkansas played really well against LSU in the week before, and they completely shut down KJ Jefferson. And so I was pretty impressed. However, their offense, I don't think looked as good as the score did. Of course, they lost Connor Wigman, and so Max Johnson is in there now. He threw a terrible pick.
Did he? I didn't see it.
Oh, my goodness, terrible. Like on their own 10-yard line, so it was a pick 6.
Ooh.
But, like, very bad. Like, the guy was already reading him, so – and then he didn't look great. Like, Arkansas's defense is just terrible.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't really think that's a good indicator of Texas A&M and their offense, but I do think that their defense has been very good throughout the year. Of course, you have the Miami game, which is kind of the outlier.
Yeah.
So for that reason, I've been saying Texas A&M, but I think them and Alabama, it's kind of in the same boat. Like, they don't really have a great passing game, but then they have pretty good defenses.
So that's at Texas A&M, and it's a 3:30 kick. I think Max Johnson could be great. He's 6'6". He's got all the tools. He needs to make sure he doesn't have the boneheaded play where, he stares down a DB and throws a pick 6. So it's really almost, to me, how do the quarterbacks do? Does Milroe, get flustered and throw those 2 picks, and Max Johnson doesn't? If that happens, Texas A&M wins.
I think A&M will have to shut down Jalen Milroe off on his feet and make sure that he doesn't run, because I think that that's their weapon, and it has been for Alabama this season. I don't know. I'm kind of torn, but I think since it's at Kyle Field, I'm going with the Aggies.
I think the 12th man wins it.
Me too.
Okay. We talked about LSU, Missouri.
Who do you have winning that one?
I think LSU shows up deflated and sleepy from that 11 a.m. kickoff in Missouri. Those fans are going to be nuts and juiced, and the team's going to be jacked. The psychology, to me, sets up for Missouri to win, and I hope that's what happens. I want Missouri coming into Sanford Stadium undefeated and ranked in the top 10.
Oh, I do too. That would be so awesome.
Yeah. Well, you, I think, need to stop your current career and go to ESPN and be a sportscaster there, because based on this conversation, more than all the people there that I see reading from a teleprompter. It's coming off the top of your head, man. I love it.
I might know more because I sit there in front of the TV Saturday from morning to midnight and watching it, but I don't know. I don't know about all that.
Well, all I want to know is, when do I get to come on any given Saturday?
Whenever you want.
All right, we're going to talk. We'll work that out offline. We'll work that out offline. And I'm going to tell your dad that he needs to Venmo you some money.
He
I'll,
does.
I'll find out what he owes.
Yes. And I need to start betting football with my dad because he is always wrong and I'm always right. So,
Well, we may or may not know the character known as Dogger who comes on here to talk about wagering on sports. So you can ask him if he knows him.
okay.
All right. Well, thanks again so much, Cassidy. It's been awesome catching up with you.
Thank you. It was fun. Go
All
Dogs.
right. Go Dogs. And now, for the first time ever on the Mad Dawg Show, we are going to bring in an opposing view from the team we're playing. And so we welcome Adam Cochran, Kentucky fan. What's up, Adam?
Hey, David, how are you doing?
Man, I'm just happy to. Yes. I don't know who this other David person is you refer to. So you're a Kentucky fan. You know, you guys are coming in undefeated on a hot streak, just completely embarrassed Florida. Your running back ran wild, striking fear in our hearts after what Auburn did to us, and we knew they were going to do it. So, kind of give me the vibe from the Kentucky tribe right now.
Well, I think you can take a lot of this from the portal. You figure the lights of Leary coming in, getting him as a grad transfer from North Carolina State. Same with Ray Davis, man. He just looked awesome last week against Florida. Had no idea that was coming in that. I mean, what a show he put on. And, I was very worried we'd even win the game, or didn't have really a whole lot of high hopes when we played the likes of three very small schools, the likes of Eastern Kentucky, and was losing in the third quarter. So I didn't know where this team was when we faced a real competitor in Florida. And I mean, we just walked the dog with them. Hate to use that pun, but we did.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's no secret that Kirby Smart has a tremendous amount of respect for Stoops and the job done there. You know, he's, I think, the second longest tenured coach in the SEC behind Saban, and really just done a lot to take Kentucky from just being considered a basketball school to being, a force to be reckoned with in the SEC East. So, as a Kentucky fan,
I just saw the other day. Yeah, I did. How ecstatic we are. I just saw the other day that actually he's higher paid than Calipari now, which is unbelievable. That 5 years ago or 10 years ago, you would have never believed that was going to happen.
I don't know that I do believe whoa, back up. He now gets paid more than Calipari?
I saw an article a day or so ago saying Coach Stoops is now higher paid with all his endorsements than Coach Cal.
Okay, the endorsements are probably what's taking over the top. That is unbelievable. I mean,
never would have thought this. But
you're now. You can't be called just a basketball school now.
Absolutely, and I think Coach Stoops has brought a toughness into the program. There's no doubt about it that last year, without having Liam Cohen there and losing him to the Rams for 1 year, what he did with Will Levis 2 years ago and last year having a dismal offense, and like I said, the portal's been huge for us. We get a lot of players, 4 and 5 star players that go to a Bama or go to a Georgia or go to an LSU, and maybe somebody else comes in and we take them with open arms and they're doing well for us. And I think that's a big deal for a lot of not top 10 schools that are getting really good football players now.
Yeah, it really levels the playing field for teams that would have to just kind of regroup, and the portal just lets them reload.
That's exactly right. And I think that's helped us out tremendously in all this, from a playability and athletic standpoint, is we're getting players in there now that we never got before. And because before they would be staying behind a 4 or 5 star quarterback at Georgia, that person would sit behind him for 4 years and never play, and it just would go out his career. And now he can come somewhere else.
Have you seen SEC Inside this week, which was on Kentucky?
I have not.
Oh, you got to watch it. So basically, they pick a team, they go through their whole week of practice, they go through their game, and it's just what it says. It's SEC Inside. You're seeing, they're in the quarterback room with Coach Liam. They're in the locker room with Stoops, on the field with Stoops. They're in practice, and he just comes across as just a really no nonsense guy. Very Kirby-esque, but they didn't catch any of the fire, which I'm sure he does behind closed doors.
I have seen his face and head light up as bright as Georgia red on the sideline. He can get pissed off real fast and get fired up as quick as anyone. He goes from 0 to 60 real fast on the sideline. But there's nothing about it. The Stoops name, the pedigree there. And I think Coach Mark Stoops has done a tremendous job for us of getting us to the next level. And hopefully in the next couple of years, he can get us to, a top 10 consistently. That's where I think Kentucky fans want to be, is we don't want to be a top 20 team. We want to be a top 10 team. And I think hopefully it's taken him a little while, but hopefully we can get there.
You really should be ranked higher than 20. And I looked at everybody and I'm like, why are these teams in front of Kentucky? And I can't really figure it out other than maybe, there's brand bias out there. People just still can't wrap their head around, Kentucky being a football school, because there's teams in front of you that had no business being in front of you. And I feel like we know a lot about Kentucky's offense, about the quarterback, about the running back. Sure. You guys got a big line. I think, there's more that can be done with your receivers. And what's interesting to me is your defense, because you run that very unconventional defense that it's almost like, when you play, and I know they're nothing like playing against Tech's offense, but when you play against Kentucky's defense, it's like it's something you don't see the whole rest of the year. And I think that's part of what gives teams trouble. And just
Sure.
was wondering kind of your thoughts on it.
Well, I think their defense is very dynamic, and the point is they have a lot of moving parts. We don't have superior linemen that are just going to get up there and hold a wall, but he's got a good linebacking core. He's got very physical DBs that will come up and play you. I get a little concerned a lot from a speed factor as we can get beat deep. That worries me a lot against Georgia and higher ranked teams that have that dynamic wide receiver that'll blow by you. That worries me a lot. But I think they use it as a bend and don't break and dynamic. And against Florida, that's what we did. They moved the ball some. They just, when they stumbled, we were right there to stop them.
So I don't know why this keeps happening, but it seems like Vegas wants people to bet on Georgia this year because we're not covering. And to me, the line is too high. What is it, 14?
It started at 17 and a half, and I think it dropped fairly quickly on that. Honestly, I'm scared we can't keep up. If your quarterback gets going, I don't know. We've struggled in Sanford since 2000 back ways, but normally we don't do well there. 2 years ago when we were undefeated, we came in there and barely scored a touchdown with the last couple seconds of the game just to get within 15 points or so of you. So we're not really good in Sanford for many reasons, and it's an unbelievable environment.
Yeah, I'm still a little bit miffed about that trash TD that Stoops did 2 years ago. Did that wreck the line on the game by him doing that?
Destroy the line. If you had the Cats getting the points, you hit.
He was doing that for the fans.
I guess so. He was absolutely doing it for the fans, or at least for somebody, because that absolutely wrecked the line. He called 2 timeouts in the last 40 seconds to stop the clock to score a touchdown.
I've never thought about it, but by doing that, he had to just really endear himself to a part of the fan base that had bet on the team to cover. And, it's like, okay, we're just going to lay down, or we're going to score this touchdown to take care of our fan base.
That's exactly right. Well, he didn't want to feel like it was a wasted trip where he just got blown out. At least, even though if you were there and watched the game, you knew it wasn't as close as it was. But if you were, you just watched in the box score, it looked a little closer. I believe the final was 13, and I believe the line was 14 or maybe 13 and a half. It covered by literally a point or point and a half.
That's very, very interesting. Well, I don't know if he'd ever give a straight answer on that one, but I'd love to really know if that's what was going on. And if so, hey, I salute you.
But I'm just happy of being a lifelong Kentucky fan, living there, going to school there. I just want us to be competitive, and if we can get to the point where we play Alabama in about a month from now. If we can get to the point where we can just be competitive with Georgia, competitive with Alabama, we've taken the next step of having pretty good seasons. Stoops won a couple 10-win seasons, which is unbelievable for us. We're just trying to get to the next step and being competitive with Georgia, Alabama, those upper 2 or 3, 4 tier schools in the SEC is where I think he wants to get it.
Well, I'll tell you, speaking of Alabama, there's nobody that's happier that see Alabama on your schedule than me, because if we lose this game, we're up against it. I mean, whoever wins this is in the driver's seat. And so I play worst case scenario, and I start looking at your schedule, and I see Alabama on there. And you haven't even played Tennessee yet, have you?
No, we got Tennessee. When you all have Georgia, Florida, we have Tennessee at home.
So you got Tennessee left. You got Bama left. After that, do you have anybody tough? Louisville won't matter.
We got Missouri at home next weekend.
And nobody really knows what they have yet. That'll be really interesting to see what they do with LSU this weekend.
That's right. And, they're ranked, I guess, one behind us at 21 in the nation, just one behind us. And I haven't really seen much of them. They're not really been on TV much that I've seen here, but not that I would watch them. But who knows what they really have.
And the psychology for the LSU-Missouri game does not look in LSU's favor. They're going to come in there deflated after a big loss, 11 a.m. kick in the zoo. It's going to be – the vibe in there is really never – watching a game at Missouri is depressing. I just don't like how it even looks on TV.
No, it's – I say a horrible stadium, but it doesn't look like a football stadium, And two, you get I think LSU, like you said, is going to be very deflated. They're not going to be inspired to come up there and win. And if Missouri gets up a little bit on them, I think they could beat them pretty handily as well. If they get up, I think they're already deflated from losing a very, very exciting football game. And if that happens, it's just going to be trouble for LSU again.
So you did say Kentucky plays Missouri next week?
Kentucky's got next week. Then I believe we're off of, the 21st. I believe we're off a week. And then we have Tennessee. And then can't think who we got that. Oh, we go Mississippi State. Or maybe it's Mississippi State we got Mississippi State, and then for sure Bama on the 11th of November. But we go
at
to
Bama or at Kentucky?
Oh, in Lexington.
Bama's in Lexington. Where is Missouri?
Missouri's in Lexington, and Tennessee's in Lexington. We got a big home schedule this year.
Man, you do have a big home schedule. I don't like that.
We go to Mississippi State, to Georgia. I guess who else did we go to? We had and then Florida. We had Florida at home.
Yeah. You made Florida look silly.
Well, let's be honest with you. I don't know how inspired Florida was. I thought they would come in being really ready to go. And, they had a couple costly penalties. And when we jumped on them, that's probably the first time we've ever jumped on Florida in last I can remember. And when we got on them, they just kind of went dead.
Well, after what Florida did to Tennessee, you would have not expected them to show up and look like they did.
When Florida did what they did to Tennessee, I thought not only can we probably not beat Tennessee, but we're not going to beat Florida. I had no expectations there. Like I said, especially playing Akron, Ball State, and Eastern Kentucky, and to get to there.
Now listen, don't talk bad about Ball State. Everybody knows that Ball State is a sleeping giant. Nobody wants to play Ball State.
I love
You
the
don't
match.
want them coming into your. You don't want Ball State coming into your stadium.
Listen, I love MAC action on Tuesday and Wednesday nights at the end of the season. Now you got football 4 or 5 nights a week. So, but we didn't look great against Ball State. Looked okay against Akron. I mean, but once again, it's Akron. But I'm looking forward to this. Is a real test. I mean, last year 2 years ago. Last year, I don't even look at last year because of the OC and all that dismal. Levis getting hurt. We were up there at the Mississippi State game when we won, beat Mississippi State, but he kind of got hurt and dinged up there. Had to get a couple other quarterbacks in there. But when we were really a good football team, I think 2 years ago, 5-0 coming into Athens, we were 17th, 16th or 17th, and really, other than that, we didn't have a lot for Georgia. Their defense, that was your first national championship of the two, and your defense was unbelievable, and Levis did nothing. But I'm looking forward to seeing Cohen operate against the guys of Coach Smart and real defensive prowess coaches.
So you're going to the game.
Going to the game.
Taking Carly, taking the boys.
Absolutely.
What colors will you be dressed out in? Entire family. What's everybody wearing?
So me and my youngest, Hagen, we'll be in Kentucky blue. Carly and Carson will definitely be all red, decked out, and we probably won't speak much. We'll actually be one side of the car will be one family or one team, and the other side of the car will be the other.
A true house divided, and really, in your case, you can't lose because I know that 364 other days of the year you're a dog, but you got to represent. You went to Kentucky, and I respect that.
Sure, and last week we almost got kicked out of Dave & Buster's in Atlanta watching the football game because we against Auburn, both of us, because we're raising Cain and yelling and screaming. So we support Georgia. I support Georgia 364 days a year. She's 5,000 days a year. I mean, and our family loves the dogs. My boys are big dog fans and want to do everything with them. But when they play the Cats a couple days, for about a 4-hour period, it gets a little dicey.
Dogs versus cats. So what's the over under?
Gosh, I hadn't even looked at it. I just knew the line. I mean,
okay, we're gonna pick it. We're gonna pick it. Then we're gonna pick blind with no over under. Dogs minus 14. Give me a score.
34-21. We cover the spread by 1. Again, we get a touchdown late.
34-21. That would mean we kicked 2 field goals.
Yep.
How's your defense?
Defense isn't bad. I mean, once again, I thought Florida's offense was much better than it was. So once again, we gave up 18 points or 17 points to a FCS school and only beat them 28-17. So, I mean, I think we got a good defense. Are they an elite defense? No. I think if your offense puts a drive together, they put a drive together and score. Our bend don't break defense is one of those that will need you all to make a mistake.
I'm gonna go 31-21 Dogs, and they don't cover.
Oh wow! Okay.
Because there's something to be said for consistency, and we haven't covered all year. Well, Adam, I got to run, man. But thanks for coming on.
Thank you so much.
Enjoyed it.
You'll be at the game this weekend or no?
I'm not going to be at the game. I have a wedding.
Gotcha. Well, I appreciate everything that the Mad Dog does, and thank you so much for having me.
Yes, appreciate your sponsorship, everybody. And Adam owns the local ASP and redid my pool and did a great job. And that is, we constantly harassed him, and he never got mad at us, so that's good.
Well, thank you again. I hope to see you soon.
Yes, sir. Will do. See you.
Bye-bye.
Have fun. And it is time to get educated on the numbers because Bert Hodges is back from dogbone.net. What's up?
All right, we are back, and I am going to stop telling you that we are going to cover the spread because it seems like every time I do, we spot the other team 10 points right off the bat.
Yeah, I think Vegas is, we're the pump fake bet, and that's fine as long as we win.
That's it. I mean, we got a W. We made it out of there.
Yes.
Thankfully.
Without Brock, I just don't know if that happens.
Yeah, I mean, just his fourth quarter stats alone are just insane. I think he had maybe 120 or 130 just in the fourth quarter.
The thing that was compelling to me is on the touchdown. I mean, the Auburn players didn't even look like they wanted to touch him. They were just like, I don't even want any part. I don't want to be on a highlight reel.
He's such a bulldozer with the ball that, I kind of don't blame him. I mean, I've never seen a receiver for us that is that adamant about not being tackled.
He's like a Herschel Walker-esque tight end. I mean,
yeah, that one Auburn player, he had the angle, and he really could have gone for his legs or his knees and taken him down, but it's like he was just like, I'm not gonna do that.
And one thing you don't hear people talk about enough is his balance. He is able to keep his balance, on plays, a lot of times on those sideline plays where you're like, okay, he's going down. Three people hit him and they just kind of bounce off because of his center of gravity.
Yeah, right. He's just so massive. He takes that hit and then he just keeps on pounding. And then you look at that play against Ohio State last year. I mean, talk about balance. I mean, that was the ultimate balancing act.
We don't win that game if he doesn't do the matrix play.
He has to make that play.
I was packed. I was ready. My daughter was like, Dad, you said it's over if we don't get it. I was like, yep, get your purse. We're about to beat traffic.
We were right there. Yeah, it was that close.
And they wouldn't tell you what was going on in the stadium. So it's like they come back from a commercial and all of a sudden it's first down. No replays, no nothing. It was weird.
Yeah, right. No, I mean, they had to look at that thing from like 3 or 4 different angles to figure out how he pulled it off.
I so wish Lou Holtz had come out after that game to tell Ohio State and Ryan Day just how they were not a good team.
They just weren't physical enough. Could have tackled him. Should have tackled him.
Exactly. So what numbers have you sliced and diced for us?
So I looked at a couple of things. Before we jump into net yards per play, Senator Blutarski over at Get the Picture had an interesting stat on Carson quarter by quarter, and I thought it really kind of tells the tale of how our games have progressed just based upon how he progresses through the game. So he has a quarter by quarter breakdown of QB rating per quarter. First quarter, his rating is 118. Second quarter, his rating is 153. Third quarter, his rating is 200. Fourth quarter, his rating is 205. So the jump between first and fourth quarter is 118 to 205.
We need to put that guy in a scrimmage, somewhere, before the game lubed up by the first quarter.
30 minutes of just going all out, make him think that he's actually in the game.
And is it part of that Bobo just kind of like a puncher feeling out his competition to see, okay, what are they going to do against this? What are they going to do against that? To kind of see how they're going to react so he knows how to call the plays.
It could be, that vanilla thing we talked about last week. And it also could be, he's just a little bit inexperienced and maybe it's just nerves early in the game that he settles down into. I mean, you look at his fourth quarter performance versus Auburn. I mean, we have had very few quarterback performances that good.
Yeah, and he, was the overthrow to Delp where he just kind of juiced it and just airmailed it. Was that first quarter? It was, wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah. If he put some air under that ball, that's a touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah, and that was early. Yeah. Yeah, so it just seems like he settles in as the game goes on. And, I'd like to think that, that second half experience against Auburn is going to do him well as far as the nerves go. That like he went into a hostile environment, he played us out of a hole, he played his best at the end of the game. It seems like that should give him some confidence as we take on the rest of the season.
It's got to. I mean, it's got to.
Yeah, yeah.
Which is great.
And having Ladd back is huge because he gets another possession receiver, and we went. I mean, the third down conversions were just so impressive too. We had third and long. I can't remember how many times, and he hit somebody for a third down conversion when we had to have it.
Yeah, I think McConkey got 3 of those.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Ladd played more than I thought that he did. I looked at the player stats, and Beck played every play, 64 plays, but Ladd, I think, was up, 26 or 28 plays. So
I would have never thought it was that many. And, it was hot over there. And
Mm-hmm.
it makes you wonder that, okay, hot day game at Auburn. This is going to be a night game where it's going to be pretty cool in Athens. So hopefully that could contribute to him playing more, plus having another week.
Right. Yeah. And I kept kind of watching him after the plays to see if, he had any kind of reaction with his back, and he seemed fine. Much better than he did. When was that, last year when he had the knee problem? Was it last year or 2 years ago when he had the knee problem and, he'd go limping to the sideline all the time?
I'm sure we have the finest masseuses on the planet that money could buy tending to his tender back at any time he may need it.
Yeah. Like Kobe beef, that Wagyu beef. Yeah.
Right.
Where they just massage those cows all the time. Like doing that over the back.
Yeah. I'm sure.
Yeah. All right. Let's look at SEC net yards per play for week 5. And if you had told me at the start of the season that this would be the week that number 1 and number 2 in net yards per play each other, I would have probably guessed that it was going to be Alabama and Texas A&M. But here we are, Georgia and Kentucky at number 1 and number 2. Kentucky's actually at 2.63. They dropped a little bit with that win over Florida, but not much. So they're still on top. We're at number 2, 2.47, and then there's 3 other teams that are still over 2. We've got Tennessee at 2.2, Ole Miss at 2.1, and then Missouri just above 2. Missouri's probably going to come down a little bit this week. They've got LSU, and LSU, as far as yards per play goes, is the most baffling team out there because they come at number 8 right now. They're at 1.3, but they've got an insane offense to go with an insanely bad defense.
Right.
So they're at almost 7.8 yards per play on offense, and then almost 6.5 yards per play on defense. So, that something's got to give there. And it's really surprising that LSU's D is this bad, as much as we heard about in the preseason. Their stout defensive line and a lot of guys coming back. They have played atrocious defense, and we saw that last week in the Ole Miss game. Looking at the rest of the group there, Alabama is kind of creeping up a little bit, but they're still down. They're at number 7 at 1.39. Texas A&M is moving up some, 1.94, and that big win over Arkansas really moved them up. So I can't wait to see that clash this week because Texas A&M's defense looks good, and Alabama, as much as that victory over Mississippi State looked good, their offense still is not rolling down the field. I mean, I think they're still averaging well under 400 yards per game on offense, which is way below Alabama standards. So them colliding with Texas A&M's defense should be interesting.
And Texas A&M with the new QB, is it Johnson? What's his name?
Max Johnson, yeah, it's Mark Richt's nephew.
Yeah, and he's like 6'6", has a brother who plays tight end. He looks good. He looks real good.
I think he was at LSU back in the day, and he's just been kind of journeyman quarterback. And then Texas A&M's quarterback gets hurt, and he's back in there. But yeah, he looks pretty good now.
That's going to be a real interesting game. That's a 3:30 game, right?
It is. Yep.
Do you know the line on that?
Yeah, Alabama is favored by, I want to say, maybe 3 points. It's a pretty tight spread on that.
Okay.
Yeah. We now have 4 teams in negative territory, and I told you this would happen as soon as we got into some SEC action. But when you start playing tougher teams, the net yards per play starts going down, and so we've got Mississippi State, Vandy, South Carolina, and Arkansas bringing up the rear, all in negative net yards per play. Arkansas, I mean, that was just kind of baffling how bad they played against Texas A&M. South Carolina, they played terrible against Tennessee. South Carolina's defense is bad. They don't have a running game, so they're probably stuck negative for the year. Vandy's actually not in last place, so maybe they've got something for. Let's see, they're playing Florida this week, so maybe they'll bring something for Florida, because Florida definitely did not look good against Kentucky, and I had to rewatch some of that game to make me feel better about this week, because Kentucky looks good, and our run defense has been suspect, especially against that quarterback last week. So that kind of concerns me. But watching Florida's lack of tackling ability made me feel a little bit better about this week.
A little bit, but also, I mean, their O-line was blowing up holes, and they were getting out schemed to where if Davis got to the second level, he was gone.
Yeah. Over and over. I mean, that guy, I think he had well over 200 yards before halftime of that game.
Yeah, I thought he was going to go for 400 at that point.
No, I think they just pulled him out. But yeah, Florida couldn't figure out how to stop him, and we better figure out how to stop him before we get to Saturday, because we haven't had somebody run on us like that in a long time, and that was just maddening watching that both quarterbacks run on a Saturday.
Yeah, and I think, Freeze hadn't run any RPOs at least the game before, maybe not all season. So he started doing that, and then he took over play calling duties. So that's huge, those two things. And it looked like, we were not, I don't want to say not prepared, but we hadn't been practicing for that. And the eye discipline of our backers, it looked like a lot of times they would just guess wrong and jump inside, and those guys would just go outside.
That's it.
Yeah, we could not set the edge.
We couldn't. Yeah, I mean, that long run by Thorne? It was just wide open around that whole side. Nobody there.
So I want to scare everybody for a minute with your stats. So with Kentucky sitting at the top of net yards per play, 2.63 is at a level. And I know, we're talking end of the year numbers, but at the end of the year, you're at 2.63. Aren't you in the Natty, if not winning it?
You are probably winning the national championship if you at the end of last year we were not at 2.63. So we won the national championship with a lower number. Now, granted, Kentucky so far, we talked about this last week. They've had Ball State, Eastern Kentucky, Akron, Vandy, and Florida was really their real first game of the year. They looked good, but that was their first game, basically, against a decent opponent.
And I will once again take exception to calling Ball State a cupcake. Kentucky played them. That's a tough win.
It was. I mean, if it gives you any solace, we played Ball State better than Kentucky did. So
Well,
we
that's
got
good.
that.
Yeah, that gives me comfort.
Yeah. So, what do you think about the line this week? You asked me about it the last 2 weeks, and I told you I thought we were underrated, and now we're coming in at what, another 15, 14 or 15 points?
It feels like Vegas has said we're the sucker bet every week, and they think dogs are going to load up to cover, and we just never will. And that's, I don't know. Maybe this week they know something we don't,
Yeah.
but 14's kind of high.
I've got to think that we're going to figure out this beginning of the game problem pretty soon. And it would be great if it happens this week, because if we can get past Kentucky, we got Vandy next, we got the bye week, and then we travel down to Florida. It seems like we really make some strides during that 2 weeks stretch where we get a little bit of a break, but we got to get by Kentucky to do it.
Well, I mean, if there is ever a game where you need a fast start, it's this one. We need to jump on top of them to take them out of their run game, because they haven't really been a pass-happy team, and I don't know how good they would be at it.
Yeah. And we do so many things pre-game to get our crowd hyped up. And then, think about that South Carolina game, how deflated our crowd was at halftime of that game. We need a loud crowd in it. Like Buffalo said a few weeks ago about the what do you call it? A false start frenzy. What was his nomenclature for that?
That sounds like him. False start frenzy. Yeah, that's perfect.
I mean, it's so effective because we've got a loud crowd, so the quarterback can't really communicate, and then we do that shifting line thing. I mean, South Carolina got fooled on it 9 or 10 times in that game.
How do people jump off sides from the line shift that we've done for the last, feels like 10 years? It's crazy.
You know who doesn't do that is Vanderbilt, because they got smart kids there that know that it's coming, and so it doesn't work against them. We probably don't even try it, but South Carolina, I mean, that's a piece of cake.
Yeah. Well, hopefully it's going to work this Saturday, because that crowd's going to be on fire.
Yeah. Oh, I know. I mean, we're going to need the crowd for this one. It feels like, that stretch in 21 where going into the season, we didn't really think the Arkansas and Kentucky games were going to be big, and they turned out to be big because I think both teams came in either undefeated or had only one loss. And I think those were some CBS 3:30 games, or maybe a noon CBS. But yeah, I mean, this game is a whole lot bigger than it looked like at the beginning of the season.
Oh, for sure. I mean, but I guess probably because everybody on paper looked at Florida, Kentucky, and thought, Napier's going to have them moving in the right direction, and they're going to be able to beat them. And then also, you saw what Florida did to Tennessee, and so nobody would have guessed that they would have come out and just laid the egg that they did against Kentucky.
Yeah, Tennessee fans have just got to be like, what is going on? I mean, was that just like an anomaly, what happened in Gainesville a few weeks ago? Or, is Florida that bad? Like, it's really hard to say at this point.
Yeah, it is. And so it's a strange world we live in where, not only, I mean, Kentucky's looked good under Stoops, definitely an upward trajectory. But now you got Missouri, who, I mean, it feels like they're going to beat LSU. It just feels like, I mean, LSU's going to come in deflated, 11 a.m. kick, not want to be there, and Missouri is going to want to be there. Are you looking at the line?
No, I'm just looking at their schedule, and so they've got LSU, and then they have Kentucky next week, and then South Carolina, and then they have a bye before they play us.
Of course.
Yeah, so, conceivably, if they get by LSU this week, I mean, that could be another big game at home.
100%. And I think that Drinkowitz has them believing. They got a good quarterback. They got Burden's a great receiver. You get into a shootout with them, you better have somebody that can cover Burden, and you better have somebody, what's their quarterback's name?
Is it Cook?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, yeah, I think it's Cook.
Chasing him
Um,
down.
Yeah, Luther Burden's a beast this year, and I mean, man, I mean, we tried as hard as we could to get that guy. We almost had him convinced, but yeah, he's a beast for him. Is there any group of folks that is wronger about predicting the fate of SEC football than the media day guys that vote during media days in the summer? They had they had Kentucky at 4, and I think they had Missouri maybe at 5. And if you look at it now, the 3 undefeated teams in the East are us, Kentucky, and Missouri.
Yeah. They know as much as we do, if not less.
I think they know less because a lot of them are homers for the team that they cover.
Mhm.
At least the guy who writes for South Carolina here, he's such a homer, and I'm on Twitter just dogging him all the time for his homer fansmanship of South Carolina. But those guys don't watch the rest of the games. They watch their game and they write on their game, and they don't know a whole lot about other teams.
I feel sorry for them that they have to watch the games of their teams versus being able to watch the Dogs.
You know, I mean, that would just ruin college football for me if I had to be the beat writer for South Carolina going to Vanderbilt and cover that for an entire day instead of watching all these other great matchups.
Oh, for an entire week, you got to be, cranking out content, trying to get people excited about reading your article about South Carolina versus Vandy.
Right. Like if you're a Seth Emerson and you're covering Georgia, I mean, that's a different gig,
Right.
I mean, you've got some compelling matchups there, but yeah, the beat reporter for a bad SEC school is not a job I want to have.
Me either.
All right. I want to look at one more stat, and this is the week 5 net yards per play for every team in the SEC, if you can pull that one up. And this is just because this was the first week that we had SEC on SEC action for every team in the conference. So just to kind of give you an idea of who was moving up and who was moving down. Starting at the top in the East, so we had Florida. They had negative 1.8 yards per play, net yards per play against Kentucky.
Okay.
Here we were at Auburn with 1.8 net yards per play. So on paper, if you take away those turnovers, and Auburn scores on those turnovers, I mean, we really dominated that game. Outside, I think they had 300 yards total. Over 100 of those were the quarterback running the ball. So,
hey, Bert.
Yeah.
Don't tell any Auburn people that we dominated them and gave them a short field on 2 turnovers because they
could
won't
have won
like that.
Right? No, they had a chance to win the game. We, I think a couple of years ago, an opposing fan had described our style of play as joyless murder ball. 21 and 22. This is the season of false hope, I think. If we have a style of play this year so far, it's given the other team some false hope.
Yeah, baiting them like Deion Sanders used to bait quarterbacks so they'd throw it to him and he could pick it and take it to the house.
Right. And then when you get to the goal line, you're doing that Deion thing,
Exactly.
Yeah.
But to your point, so in your stat, we were 1.8
Mhm.
and Auburn was negative 1.8.
That's it. Yeah.
Which I wouldn't think that would be the case. Well, I guess whatever you are,
Yeah.
the other team's opposite.
They're the exact opposite. Yeah. If you're positive, they're negative.
Yeah.
So to that extreme, if you look at the Arkansas Texas A&M game, so Texas A&M outgained them net yards per play by 2.9. So Texas A&M had a huge bump up in their net yards per play, and Texas and Arkansas had a huge drop. Surprisingly,
Arkansas,
in the LSU. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, Arkansas has been a head scratcher. They look like they're in a bad place.
Yeah, I'd been reading a little bit about them. Apparently, they're really upset with how poor their offensive line is playing, which is kind of surprising considered, the
Yeah.
pit boss is there and that's his jam. But you got to wonder how much longer he's going to be there. I mean, they have struggled from year to year, and I don't know how much longer they're going to take that.
With him, I think they're going to give him some time. But I know you were about to say something about LSU, so go ahead.
Yeah. LSU and Ole Miss was the surprising one because Ole Miss won the game, but LSU won the net yards per play. I didn't get to watch much of that game, so I don't know exactly how that transpired. But usually the winner of the net yards per play wins the game. But then again, you got turnovers and special teams and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. The turnovers are what could turn that number into a bit of an anomaly.
Yeah. Bama was at 2.2 overall, Mississippi State, and Tennessee. They really didn't dominate South Carolina. They were 1.3 net yards per play over South Carolina. That South Carolina was in that game. They just threw a pick six, and like you were saying about the turnovers, pick six is the ultimate turnaround in a game because it takes away a drive from you and it puts 7 points on the board for the other team. And basically, that's what happened to us with our two turnovers. I mean, it's like you think about the beginning of the second half, and that is when we are so dialed in, and Kirby's like, we're going to motor straight down the field. We're going to score a touchdown right now. And I think it was the first play that Delp fumbled the ball on. And so it kills our drive when we probably got it all laid out. We're ready to roll down the field. And then Auburn scores like 2 or 3 plays later.
Yeah, when we thought Dejon had fumbled, I thought it was over.
Mm-hmm.
But you got me thinking about something. So a pick six, a scoop and score, and any kind of kick return for a touchdown would be something that would not show up in net yards per play. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah. It doesn't show up anywhere.
Okay.
Yeah. But it affects the game. I mean, you have a couple of pick sixes. I think back to that South Carolina-Georgia game in 2019, Fromm's worst game.
I don't want to think back to that.
Yeah, I know. I mean, that was the ultimate turnovers. Pick sixes will dictate a game if you give enough of them.
It'd be real interesting to go back and see what the NPP was in that game because of those 2 pick sixes.
It was the same guy. The same guy picked off both passes and ran it for a touchdown. Yeah. Our last home loss, our last SEC regular season loss.
In 2019.
Yeah. I think, and that is putting as much on our fansmanship. I think these streaks now are putting as much pressure on us as anything. Thinking about how long we've been since losing a regular season game, how long we've been since losing a game period, keeping this Mad Dawg 34-1 streak alive. I mean, it's a lot of pressure on us as fans to keep this going.
It really is. And I'll tell you that the stat that Auburn had of 4 straight home games winning against number 1 teams, that's crazy.
I couldn't believe that. So they showed who it was because I was trying to I knew it was us when we went in 2017, and I figured it was Bama a couple of times, and that was right. But you had to go all the way back to 2001 to the 2001 Auburn-Florida game to get to that 4th straight victory over a number 1 team.
Yeah.
Those guys can get up for the big games. They, as you've seen against Alabama over the years, they just can't get up for the little games.
Their refs get up for those games too.
They do. Yeah, like that call on the last play of the game when Malachi Starks intercepted. Did you see the holding all over the field on that
I saw
play?
the holding the whole game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It was maddening. They weren't going to call anything, and I think Auburn knew it, and they took advantage of it because they were going to hold us as much as they could until they threw a flag on them, and they never did.
That's exactly what they were doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, that was maddening. Yep. But, hey, we walked out there with a W. We gave them some false hope, crushed their spirit, just like we did against South Carolina, and we're moving on undefeated.
Feels good.
It does. Now let's turn it around this week and let's come out steamrolling in the first half and change this narrative, because I've got to believe we've got a 4-quarter game in us where we really put it together, and I can't wait to see what that looks like, because we still don't really know the identity of this team. The defense not as strong as it's been the last 2 years. Maybe it'll come around. We need to get some guys back like Tyron, Ingram, Dawkins. But the offense, the same. We haven't been able to run the ball as we have in the past, but Beck seems to be rounding into form, and it would be great if we could put a 4-quarter game together on Saturday.
Perfect time to do it. I think it's critical we come out fast, like I said, so that they have to pass and cannot rely on the run.
Yeah, keep that crowd in it. False start frenzy on their part, and it makes every drive for them 1st and 15, which a whole lot harder to get.
Absolutely. I can't wait to talk to Buffalo about the false start frenzy.
Yes, exactly. I think that's what he called it. It was some kind of alliteration. So, check with him.
I'll do it. Well, Bert, as always,
all right.
Thank you for coming on. I want to encourage everybody to go to thedogbone.net. It's where you will find every article out there about the Dogs. It's a news aggregator. It's like the Drudge Report for Georgia football. Go there and you'll find everything.
That's it. We got all the stats, all the info you'll ever need on the Dogs. So check
more than you can read.
That's it.
All right.
Enjoyed it.
Go Dogs.
All right. Go Dogs.
Back by popular demand, it is a man known only as Buffalo. What is up?
Mad Dawg, as always. How you feeling this evening?
Man, I feel great. We're still undefeated. We're still the number 1 team in the country. We still got all our streaks intact. Not that I'm a big, carer of streaks. I just want to win, but it's like I'm living in an alternate universe. What has transpired over the last 2 years?
We have, and this streak has gotten so large that I am starting to feel the pressure of it. I feel like Pete Rose when he had his, a 44-game hitting streak he had, and it ended here in Atlanta, I believe, and he wanted to fight Gene Garber for not throwing the ball straight down the plate to him so he could hit it.
Right.
I'm starting to feel like Pete Rose.
Yeah, I mean the streaks are getting gaudy.
They're getting up there.
Yeah, they're getting up there. But hey,
they'll have to be explained in scientific notation.
Well, I mean, I just think about, the historic nature of them and, how am I going to explain it to the grandkids one day so that they can truly get the magnitude of what went down?
Yeah, we would have never understood it. The early 80s, but if you start when we went to college, you're talking about a foreign land we're in right now, man.
Yeah, we'd be like, what? Yeah, what if someone had come back from the future and they're like, don't worry. When you're old and gray and bald,
exactly.
In the year 2021, a man will arrive.
Exactly.
Who hasn't even played football at Georgia yet. But this man will take you to the promised land, not once, but twice.
I don't believe it. I'm sending that Hollywood script to the side if they propose it to me.
Yeah.
But it happened.
Exactly.
And like I said, we got to separate ourselves from those guys. And last week I said, let's just watch this team improve. That's kind of fun to do that. A little nerve-wracking, but somewhat refreshing when you can sit back and reflect on it after the game's over and you won.
Yeah, I mean, winning in boring fashion, it's great. Like, it was great to be bored at the national championship, but it's also great to have a win that you feel it like, oh, wow, we really ground that out. Really got pushed to the limit. And if we didn't have certain players, it wouldn't have happened, like Bowers.
Yeah, like Bowers. I'm going to talk about him in a second. I got my Braves shirt on, my old school, politically incorrect Braves shirt.
Love it.
Playoffs are going on right now. Just talking about fast starts. I believe Tampa was 20-3 to start the year. Tampa Rays. They're out of the playoffs now, so they were in the playoffs about 6 hours. So anyway, fast starts. Well, they're not all they're cracked up to be sometimes. I went to the Braves on Sunday, Mad Dawg, and I go to this nice friends of ours. Took Laura and I to the game, first class, everything great. And at some point I had to go to the bathroom, and I'm standing there at the urinal, and this guy looks to me and he says, "Hey, Kentucky's got this running back that went for 280 some odd yards against Florida, and he used to be the front man and lead singer for the band The Kinks."
What?
So I didn't know that Kentucky had an English running back that just went bonkers against the Gators. That was a shocking fact that I learned on Sunday in the urinal.
I think he might have been drunk or just completely confused because the lead singer of the Kinks was Ray Davies, and the running back for Kentucky is Ray Davis.
Oh, well, I'm sorry to everyone if I brought out some bad facts. I thought I usually believe everything I hear and read. So
We may need to explain to the younger listeners who the Kinks are.
I think they got a song called Lola.
Yes,
which is pretty appropriate in these times.
It is very appropriate. Those guys were ahead of their time. They were soothsayers. You really got me. I mean, they had a bunch of good ones.
And here I thought I know there's been advances in medicine. Have you ever seen that old man in that ad that just all buff? He looks like Ben Watson when he played for us, but he's bald-headed and gray, and he's 70 years old. He's on something.
Yeah.
I thought that's what the deal was because I knew this guy had to be old if he sang Lola, yet he was playing running back for Kentucky. But I guess that guy must have been a Nationals fan telling me a lie.
I think it was. I wish that Ray Davies from the Kinks was playing running back for Kentucky because then I think we'd have a much better shot.
We would. That would sway the line a little bit in Las Vegas.
Big time.
Okay, let's get on to Brock.
It's Brocktober. It's Brocktober, baby.
Brocktober, sorry. What a month we're in, Brocktober. It's good to be in Brock. The leaves are kind of going to be changing, I think, towards the end of Brocktober.
Yep.
A lot of we got the Georgia-Florida game at the end of Brocktober.
It could be Brocktastic.
It's been Brocktastic. I hope it continues to be Brocktastic. I think it will.
Go ahead.
I was thinking after we just fed the beast in the fourth quarter, I mean, this guy's finally getting some national attention, but we've all known about it. I was thinking that maybe I call Webster's or Harbrace or I don't know who it is, Scripps, Howard, who I don't know, whoever invents the English language each year. I'd like to change the word powerful to bowerful.
From fantastic to Brocktastic?
From fantastic to Brocktastic. From horsepower to horsebower.
From delicious to Broccolicious.
How about this? The next Twisted Sister concert, they should sing I Want a Brock.
I mean, Bob Seger could change a song.
He could. There's a song he wrote, I think, in 1985.
85.
Popularized by I don't know if it was Dodge, Ford, I can't remember.
Like a rock, baby. Like Brock.
I know he's in retirement, but like a Brock.
Man, love Seger. I mean, there's nobody more All-American than Bob Seger.
If I didn't know the lyrics to that song until the other night, and I looked them up. If you read the first 2/3 of the lyrics of that song, he might as well be talking about our own very tight end Brock Bowers.
It's eerie, and I've been obsessing about it ever since you pointed it out to me. Like changing I was 18 to I was 19. Just all of it is just
we can change it to 19.
It's all applicable.
His hands were, what did he say?
Steady.
steady. His
Yeah.
eyes were bright, his hands were steady, or his steps were light or something.
Yeah.
He felt like a mid. He felt like number one.
Yeah, it's crazy.
We got, if Bob ever comes out of retirement, I'm going to call him and tell him he needs to change the words.
Hopefully he's got some tax issues and he'll come back out and hit the road again. But
He
I
might.
doubt.
That sometimes happens to musicians.
Sometimes happens.
They throw in the towel and then the tax man hits them a couple, 2 or 3 years, and they're like, you know what, I'm going to come back for my final run.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, this game. What are your thoughts on this game coming up, Matt? I'm sure people have asked you on the show, but
I mean, my thoughts are we got to come out fast because their strength is their running game. If we come out fast and they're having to play us from behind, then it's not going to be able to catch up if they're doing ground and pound. So then they're going to have to rely on a passing game, which isn't as strong. And I just like our defense in that situation.
yeah, we got to stop them on third down, which we did a great job of last week. I know we gave up the chunk play and the 2 short fields got us, but we got to hold on to the ball. We know that. I mean, against this team, we really can't. What were we -2 or no -1 last week if you count the end of the game interception?
Right. I'm Kentucky's funky defense kind of concerns me because it's kind of like I said earlier. It's like when you played Tech's offense, you only played it once a year. So you had to really just kind of devote, a sesh per week against it. And the same thing's true with Kentucky's defense is you don't play, their uneven fronts that they put out there except once a year.
Yeah, they got the monster in the middle, big number 0.
Exactly. But, it won't be the first time we faced it. We faced it last year, but when we did, we only scored 16 points.
Yeah, that guy's been making some plays.
Yeah.
They even dropped him back a couple of times. Did you know that?
No, I didn't.
At 345 pounds or whatever he is.
I need to go back. I need to go back and watch SEC Inside because, they did Kentucky this past week.
Yeah. Davis will be trying to the edges, I guess, but he did pretty well inside. But I don't think Florida was interested that day. They weren't interested in taking on blocks. They weren't interested in tackling. Our own ex-Jalen Kimber, I watched him get dragged like some guy that fell off a horse and his foot was still hanging in the stirrup. He got drugged into the end zone one time. Man, Florida just looks like they'd had a bottle of Robitussin before that game kicked off.
Yeah, they looked very disinterested. The only thing I think they were interested in was getting back out of there and going back to Gainesville. But it was just baffling how they could play and look so good against Tennessee and then just essentially not show up for Kentucky.
I know a lot of Tennessee fans will tell you that Tennessee's just cursed when they go there. They can't, for some reason, get over the hump there. Maybe they played terribly that day. I don't know. But, man, Florida, I was like, well, the Georgia-Florida game took on a little more excitement to me after they did that to Tennessee, but then they came back with this dud. I guess you don't know what you're going to get from those guys.
Yeah. Florida's kind of tough to figure, man. They just they can't seem to turn the corner, and I don't know if Napier's going to be the guy to turn the corner.
Yeah, he looks a little stressed there on the sidelines.
And a big part of their problem is they have no patience. Like, you got to give a guy time. And it's just a win now culture, and I know that's everywhere. We've seen what's happened with the last 4 guys down there. It's just all of a sudden everybody just decides that guy's out, and it's just a done deal, and they run him out of town.
Yeah, I mean, they had a pretty good coach, although apparently not a great person. But they had a really good coach. But after him, they have struck out or not giving him enough time, like you said.
I mean, when your coach has to come up with fake death threats in order to get out of town. Remember when McElwain was just making stuff up?
You mean the shark fisherman?
Yes.
Captain Quint?
Captain Quint.
Well, he had a lot of things going on.
He did have a lot of things going on.
He probably needs to stay off those fishing boats.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, I have one announcement to make. I know I can't. I always have to go out of town before the Florida game during Halloween week, but and I have a special guest sit in for me. I think I might have another week this year where I have to be away, and I think we may have. I'm trying to work on another guest to fill in for me. So just want to tell everybody he will be probably recognizable, but we'll see how that works out.
Can you tell us who it might be?
Oh, he might be currently embattled with Just for Men Beard, Ohio State coach Ryan Day.
Well, I can connect those.
Lou wants to get on the Mad Dawg show.
Look, Lou is welcome. I would love for Lou to come on and pontificate about everything in the world that he hates about Ohio State and Ryan Day, and just take him to task.
All right, well, we'll see if Lou can make it.
I mean, that would be the highlight of all 3 seasons if you can get him on.
It might be the highlight. We'll have to. That's yet to be seen.
I mean, if word gets out that Lou Holtz is going to be here to just lambaste Ohio State, I mean, we may be able to get Day on here.
Yeah, well, we might. We get them both on there. Remember the old show on CNN, Crossfire?
Yeah.
That would be what it is.
It'd be like, 2 wrestlers going at it in 1977.
Yeah, no doubt. We need Gordon Soley as the only person.
Exactly.
I love Gordon Soley. I bring him up about every 3 weeks. Love him. Are you going to the game this week, Mad Dawg?
Well, as a matter of fact, I'm not. I have a wedding.
I thought you were already married.
I am, in fact, married. I have been invited to a wedding.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, good luck to you there.
Yeah.
Wish the couple well, and hope the bride allows some of the attendees to keep up with the game.
I've heard there will be TVs there.
That's good.
I'm not sure if they're going to be on. I have plans in place to make sure that I'm kept abreast of all information.
All right. Well, I won't be there either. I've been out of town 6 weeks, and I just can't do it again. So I'm gonna every weekend. So I'm gonna stay here, and I'm gonna open. I don't know if I've ever told you. My deck is known as the Deck of Doom.
Okay.
Because we lost so many big games on it throughout the history of me having this deck. But the Deck of Doom's turned around.
Okay.
So we're opening the Deck of Doom.
So I shouldn't worry about it.
It's opening weekend for the Deck of Doom.
Okay, but I don't need to be worried that you're on the deck.
No,
it's the Deck of Doom for Kentucky.
Washed it all off.
Okay.
I went out and did a gravel angel out in the pea gravel and looked at the moon and uncursed it or something. I don't know what happened, but the Deck of Doom's been nice to me now.
Okay, good.
All right.
Should we bring in Dogger?
The Dogger. He was hot 2 weeks ago.
Let's see if Dogger is awake.
Mad Dawg.
He is. What's up, Dogger?
How are you, man?
Man, I'm great. I'm better now that you're here.
No, I'm super excited. Back after a little hiatus, I had to do another duty that really focused on my gambling activities and research getting ready for this week. So great win by the Dogs. Good comeback there in the Plains. That was a little nerve-wracking. The Dogs are 0-4 in the covering aspect, which is frustrating, but they're 4-0, so that's a good thing.
Well, I appreciate you carving out time for us. I know you're on the circuit. I know there's a lot of different podcasts and conventions that need your guidance when it comes to wagering.
That's right. That's right. Some of those I'm more publicly aired, but on this one, I like to stay anonymous.
And I know that you're also, you have various services that people subscribe to on the internet just to get your insight as to what may or may not happen.
Yeah, for all of your listeners, you may see it may not come from the Dogger, but it can come from a bunch of different names, maybe the Colonel or something different. So if you get those random texts that say $3 and I'll give you 5 locks, or you get the next week free, then just pay attention to those and sign up.
Well, you have to have aliases when you're in your line of work.
That's right.
So we got a special little treat this week. Dogger is and I have conspired and consulted to come up with a little select group of games for the 3 of us to pick, both ATS and straight up money line against the spread, straight up money line. So kick it off, Dogger.
All right, that's fine. I don't know if your person there in the back room, Park, is going to be the bear, the old bear from ESPN, to track all these. He can put them up on a board, or I'm going to track them as well.
Okay.
But yeah, we're going to follow that format. We need to come up with the booby prize.
Okay.
Here at some point. Buffalo a couple of weeks ago mentioned Phil Fulmer looking like a giant pumpkin. So we may one of us, whoever loses, may have to dress up as a giant pumpkin for a Georgia game.
We can make that happen.
You have to dress up for it the week of Tennessee.
There you go.
Yes.
There you go. That's something to discuss. All right. So the first game, and these are in order of, well, there are 3 games at 12 o'clock. But you have LSU at Missouri, and LSU is -6. So I don't know if y'all want to go first, if you want me to pick first, how you want to do it.
All right, I'll go and I'll say Missouri covers and Missouri wins.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I heard you on earlier. You were picking Missouri, LSU coming in a little weak, early game. Interesting. Bobber.
All right, I'll go LSU covers. And, of course, with that, they win.
All right, I'm the same as Bobber. So
Okay.
LSU covers and LSU wins.
I'm a contrarian. Let me just say that out of the gate.
No, that's not a bad pick. That happened against the Dogs. Was that last year that they went into Missouri and really struggled there for a while?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. All right, the next game is Texas -6.5 at Oklahoma.
Wait, no. Neutral field, right?
My bad. I just it's listed as a home field,
Right.
but yeah, it's
So
neutral. It is.
Oklahoma, you're right. Oklahoma will be the home team in their home
Yeah.
colors.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm gonna say Oklahoma wins and Oklahoma covers. Yeah.
No, and Bobber.
I'm going to say Texas wins and Oklahoma covers.
Interesting. A tight game. I'm going to agree with Mad Dawg here. I'm going to go Oklahoma covers and Oklahoma wins.
All right.
All right. The next one, you have Ohio State -20 against Maryland.
Oh my gosh, it's 20.
Yep.
Okay, I'm gonna pick with my heart here, and I know that's the wrong thing to do, but what the heck? Money's free. I'm gonna go Maryland. Maryland covers, and Maryland wins.
Woohoo! Wow.
Yeah.
That's so by the way, the odds, they would be plus 1,300 if they win. So you bet 100 and they win, you would win 1,300
Okay.
for Maryland. Yeah.
All right.
That's the biggest money line out there. I should have mentioned the other money lines. LSU is -230 and Texas is -190. And then Ohio State is -1,500, but Maryland would be plus 1,300.
All right, I'm going just for men beards across the board.
You love them, don't you, Bobber?
Don't sleep on the Terps.
I don't love them, but
They got a Tagovailoa quarterback.
I'm going to go Maryland covers and Ohio State wins. They're both undefeated, so
Right.
yeah, that could be. Hopefully, it'll be a tight one. I'm not a big Ohio State fan. I know you're not, Mad Dawg.
Hate them.
Next game is Alabama -2 at Texas A&M.
Keeping with my theme, I will say Texas A&M covers and wins.
Damn, do we need to change your from Mad Dawg to Underdog?
I mean, whatever fits.
That's tough. Alabama has never had 2 losses by the 1st of November since 2007. Therefore, I will go with Alabama to win the game and cover the 2.
All right.
Note, if I'm right, then Jimbo will be the first former Saban assistant to beat him twice.
Well, I'm gonna go with that stat right there. I'm gonna ride Mad Dawg again and go with A&M to both win the game and cover. I know Alabama looked good last week, but I think they're still struggling a little bit. So I agree with
A&M
Mad Dawg on that one.
A&M held Auburn. They stoned them. They had 140 yards rushing against them, I think. I mean, A&M may have after their initial hiccup, they may have found the fountain of
Found a defense.
Found it.
I like Max Johnson too, like you said.
I do too.
All right, the next one is, and I hate betting on I've always said this on your show, Mad Dawg, the Georgia game. I hate betting on the side there, but we'll do it.
You don't.
Georgia,
You know what? I don't want to make you do anything you're not
No.
comfortable with.
That's fine.
You
That's
can.
fine.
You can sit it out if you want.
No. I have to keep it
Okay.
going. We got to keep the record for the year.
I'm going away from my theme of going both ways. I'm going to say Georgia wins, doesn't cover.
All right, Georgia's minus 14.5, by the way. I heard you say 14 earlier. I've got it at 14.5.
Okay.
Well, I predicted we would cover South Carolina, and I was wrong. And I don't want to come out bold, but man, we gotta have a game where we just put it all together. And I'm saying week 6 is it. I'm going to go with the Dogs winning across the board, covering, and all that.
I'm with you. I am definitely with you. I really like the over in that game too, 48.
Ooh. 48. I was wondering what that was. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
48.
Interesting.
And the final one, your other favorite team, Mad Dawg, is the Irish, is minus 5.5 at Louisville.
I threw that in there for you. And I'm going to go against my heart, and I'm going to say Notre Dame wins and covers.
I'm going to say Notre Dame's been in 2 games in a row that have been tough. So I'm going to say Notre Dame. I'm going to say Louisville wins the game.
Wow. Louisville, yeah. Interesting. I do agree they've been in 2 tough ones. The fact they came back and beat Duke on a 4th and, 16 or 17, for him to be able to escape and get that first down and come back and win. I debated going with Louisville, but I'm hoping that they're on a kind of a roll that'll help them rebound. That was a really tough game against Ohio State, obviously. So I'm going to agree with Mad Dawg on this one too. I think Mad Dawg and I are alike on a lot of these. I'm going to go Irish on both sides.
Love it. All right, just everybody's opinion. I'm of the opinion that Missouri is going to shock the world and beat LSU. Does anyone agree?
I can see it happening easily. I don't because I took LSU on both sides. I don't know, Brian Kelly. I'm not a huge fan, not a fan at all of Brian Kelly, but I just feel like they're going to rebound. Their defense obviously needs to be playing better than they did against Ole Miss. It'll be a hostile environment. I just see LSU pulling that out in the end.
I picked LSU because, I mean, they're going to have 3 losses now?
That's correct. Brian Kelly, 3 losses. Learn to love it.
Okay. Well, he may find a head of a nutria in his bed.
Nutria. Wow. I love that you pulled that animal out of your hat.
Well,
It's one of my favorites.
Rat.
The largest rodent in the world, isn't it?
That's right. I believe you're right.
What's the angriest rodent in the world, Bobber?
The angriest rodent in the world?
Yeah. You always talked about you don't remember what? I can't think what it was. It's that little rat looking thing. Never mind.
Well, I can't remember, Craig. I mean, Dogger. I do it every week.
That's all right.
Can't help it.
What's up with the false start frenzy?
Yeah.
False start fiasco. I mean,
Oh,
I'll
it was
take
fiasco?
credit.
Okay. We didn't know if it was fiasco or frenzy.
That was when we played South Carolina, and we're gonna have Beamer going crazy when we're so loud that they false start all the time, and he's gonna implode on himself, and his face was gonna His face it's like Jim Carrey-esque.
Yeah, it is.
His face is all over the board. So I called it the false start fiasco, but we can call it a false start frenzy. I'll accept that as I'm grading papers.
There you go. There you go. All right, guys. Well, I got to run, but I've enjoyed our time together as always. It's very therapeutic.
Thank you, Mad Dog. You're having a great show.
Thanks for joining.
Thank
Go
you.
Dogs. See you next week.
Go Dogs.
So once again, that's it. That's our show. We had our usual cast of repeat offenders, Buffalo, Dogger, Bert Hodges, Dr. Snetzer. We had our special guest that I'd like to thank too, which was Adam Cochran, one of our sponsors with ASP. And then our very special guest, Cassidy Pearson, who joins us, who has her own podcast, was part of the inspiration for this one. Her podcast is called Any Given Saturday, and I hope you check it out. And I hope that the Dogs win this weekend, and I hope that you get to go HBTFD.
The Mad Dawg Show is proudly sponsored by
The Sanford Company, Dogbone.net, Bulldog Illustrated, Classic City Collective, The Park Group Marketing and Media, Bib Distributing, Sellers Construction, Ventures Barbecue, Go Clean Co., Jay Lee, Attorney at Law, Pelicano Construction, Jags Pizzeria, Macon Monogramming, Ortho Georgia, Cherokee Brick, Progressive Communications, Butler Auto Group, ASP, Ward Mini Storage, Walthall Oil Company, Beach Services, Willingham Sash and Door, and Cranford Chiropractic.